Russia has a Black Sea problem, and it is not the kind that explodes dramatically on Telegram with orchestral music and somebody's watermark in the corner. It is the kind that just sits there, getting worse, because NATO found a cheat code on Russia's southern flank. And it is not a missile system, not a carrier group, not some shiny new weapons program with a PowerPoint and a press release. It is Romania, a country that does not need to be loud, aggressive, or theatrical to make Russian planners miserable. It just needs to remain exactly where it is. And that, for Moscow, is the problem that cannot be solved. That is why Romania is not just another eastern flank country. It is a geographic exploit. Air bases, missile defense, logistics routes, and a coastline that turns NATO's whole southern posture from a concern statement into something a lot more practical. Romania is getting more useful, not less. That is a terrible trend if you're sitting in the Kremlin, wearing a suit worth 3 months of a Russian conscript's pay, trying to explain why the Black Sea keeps becoming someone else's workspace. Because once you zoom out, this stops looking like a national story. It starts looking like a trap built by geography. Romania sits on the western Black Sea, right next to the mouth of the Danube, with direct relevance to southern Ukraine, Moldova, the sea lanes near Odessa, and the entire access route between the Black Sea coast and the rest of Europe. That alone would make it important. But war has a way of upgrading old maps into brutal reality. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion, the Black Sea stopped being some secondary theater where officials in Brussels use phrases like regional concern and then go eat salmon. It became a live military space full of mines, drone threats, airspace violations, disrupted shipping, and a constant argument over who gets to operate freely and who gets watched. And Romania is right there. Not nearby, not interested in developments. Right there. So the first reason Romania feels like a NATO cheat code is simple. Position. If you want to support Ukraine without sailing straight into a fantasy fleet battle, Romania matters. If you want to secure trade routes in the western Black Sea, Romania matters. If you want to keep pressure on any Russian attempt to spread instability toward Moldova, the Danube, or the coast, Romania matters. That sounds obvious, which usually means people underestimate it. A lot of military advantage is boring on paper. Then the crisis starts, and suddenly the boring country with the useful roads, the useful ports, the useful coastline, and the useful airfields becomes the country everyone quietly depends on. That is Romania. It has already helped move enormous volumes of Ukrainian grain through Constanța, turning its Black Sea port into Ukraine's main alternative route out after Russia tried to choke normal access. Roughly 30 million metric tons moved that way over 3 years. That is not a side note. That is strategic circulation. It means Russia is not just fighting armies, it is fighting workarounds. And Romania has become one of the biggest workarounds on the map. Now, here's where it gets worse for Moscow. Romania is not only useful at sea level, it is becoming more dangerous in the air. At Mihail Kogălniceanu, NATO already has one of its most important military locations on the Black Sea flank. Even after a US drawdown last year, Reuters reported that around 1,000 US troops remain there, while Romania's permanent allied presence stood at roughly 3,500 NATO troops overall. That means Russia is not looking at an empty edge of the alliance. It is looking at a live platform, a place where allied presence is already real, already functioning, and already tied into the Black Sea fight. And Romania didn't stop at hosting troops. It started scaling usefulness. The country opened an F-16 training hub with Dutch support, and that matters far beyond pilot school PR. Because pilot training is not symbolic. Pilot training is pipeline power. It means Romania is helping generate air capability close to the war zone, in terrain and conditions that are far more relevant than some distant classroom on the other side of the continent. That is the kind of thing Russia hates, because it is hard to dramatize and even harder to stop. No fiery headline, no dramatic mushroom cloud, just more trained crews, more Western integration, and more competence showing up where Moscow wanted exhaustion. And then there's the part that really annoys the Kremlin. Romania is not just helping NATO see the Black Sea. Romania is helping NATO defend it. At Deveselu, Romania hosts the Aegis Ashore Missile Defense Site, one of NATO's key ballistic missile defense nodes. That site has been operational since 2016, and NATO still identifies Romania as one of the alliance's core missile defense hosts. So now stack that onto the map carefully, because this is where the picture changes. Romania is not one military asset. It is a layered problem. A Black Sea coastline, a vital port, an air hub, a training pipeline, a missile defense site, and a frontline adjacent NATO state that sits close enough to matter every day, but deep enough inside the alliance that Russia cannot simply bully it the way it bullies neighbors outside the club. That last point is the killer, because Russia's favorite move is pressure. Pressure through fear, pressure through ambiguity, pressure through something fell out of the sky but nobody can prove what it means. Pressure through mines, drone fragments, GPS interference, energy threats, maritime harassment, and the usual swamp of deniability that Moscow treats like an art form. Romania has seen pieces of that already. Russian drone fragments have repeatedly fallen on Romanian territory, and Romanian officials have also pointed to near-daily GPS jamming in the Black Sea environment. That means the contest is not hypothetical anymore. It is active, which also means NATO is no longer treating Romania like a quiet rear area. It is treating Romania like a serious operating zone, and that is what makes Romania such a nightmare for Russia to undo. You can threaten a convoy, you can intimidate a shipping lane, you can launch another sermon about red lines from a gold chair in Moscow and hope somebody in Europe still startles easily. What you cannot easily undo is a country whose geography keeps attracting more alliance function. That is the real cheat code. Romania does not need to become flashy. It just needs to remain indispensable. And in the Black Sea, indispensable is often more dangerous than aggressive, because aggressive can be sanctioned, aggressive can be denounced, aggressive can even be contained. Indispensable gets reinforced. Now this gets even sharper, because Romania's role is no longer just about ports, bases, and map position. It is also about energy, sea denial, mine warfare, and why the Western Black Sea is slowly turning into a zone where Russia can still cause trouble but cannot comfortably dominate. And that is where Romania stops being a useful location and starts becoming a real operating problem for Russia. Because the Western Black Sea is not a place where Moscow gets to move however it wants anymore. Too much is happening there now. Too many eyes, too many routes, too many things that matter. One of the biggest shifts is something that sounds boring until you realize how nasty it is in practice: mine warfare. The Black Sea has been littered with drifting dangers since the war expanded, and those mines do not care about speeches, propaganda, or whose flag is painted on a briefing slide. They threaten shipping, ports, energy infrastructure, and every captain trying to avoid turning a cargo run into a memorial service. That is why Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey built a joint mine countermeasure task force in the first place. And now Romania wants that effort expanded into something broader, something that protects navigation routes and key infrastructure across the Western Black Sea. Reuters reported that Romanian officials tied this directly to Russian threats, near-daily GPS disruption, and the wider contest over freedom of movement at sea. That matters because Russia likes messy water. Messy water gives Moscow room to intimidate without declaring. It gives them room to interfere without owning the consequences. It gives them room to create just enough uncertainty that ensures panic, shippers hesitate, and everyone downstream pays more. Romania's role chips away at that, not by winning some dramatic Trafalgar remake with orchestral music, not by sinking half the Black Sea fleet with one heroic button press. Older viewers know better than that anyway. Real military leverage is usually less cinematic and far more annoying. It shows up as patrols, routes, clearances, surveillance, and one more layer of control that makes the other guy's options uglier. That is exactly what Romania is helping build. And while Russia is still capable of causing chaos in the Black Sea, chaos is not the same thing as control. That distinction has become painfully important. Romania's coastline feeds directly into Constanța, and Constanța is not just a port anymore. It is one of the main pressure valves that kept Ukrainian exports moving after Russia tried to throttle maritime access. Reuters reported that Romania facilitated around 30 million metric tons of Ukrainian grain through Constanța. That turns a commercial facility into strategic infrastructure. Once a port starts keeping a neighboring state economically alive, it becomes part of the war's wider balance, whether Moscow likes it or not. And ports are only half the story. Romania also sits next to the Danube mouth, which makes the whole area strategically awkward for Russia in a way maps don't fully capture until the shooting starts. The Danube is not just a river, it is a continental artery. Goods move through it, fuel moves through it, war-related logistics touch it, political leverage touches it. Any serious pressure around that corridor creates effects well beyond the Black Sea coast. That means Romania is guarding more than water. It is guarding circulation. And once a country becomes part Coast Guard, part logistics platform, part air defense host, and part NATO launch point for regional support, the Kremlin has a harder time isolating any single target set. That is what makes the Romanian position so irritating. Russia prefers clean intimidation. One threat, one weak point, one place to squeeze. Romania keeps turning one weak point into 5 medium-strength problems, all connected. Then there is the energy piece, which gets less attention than missiles, but should worry Moscow more than a lot of headline weapons. Reuters reported that Romania is on track to become the European Union's top gas producer from 2027 because of its major offshore Black Sea gas project. Read that slowly, because this is where the map starts to look rude from Russia's point of view. A NATO state on the Black Sea, already tied into regional shipping and allied presence, is also becoming more important in energy. That means the Western Black Sea is not just about military movement. It is about power, revenue, resilience, and Europe having one more reason to secure the area properly. And when energy enters the picture, harassment stops being just harassment. Now sea mines matter more. Now GPS disruption matters more. Now surveillance matters more. Now every strange object in the water suddenly gets taken very seriously. That is not theoretical either. In December 2025, Reuters reported that Romania's military destroyed a maritime drone hazard east of Constanța because it endangered navigation. It turned out to be a Ukrainian Sea Baby drone. But the bigger point is what that incident revealed. The Black Sea is now crowded with military spillover, odd threats, and systems moving through an environment where commercial safety and wartime danger are overlapping constantly. Romania is living with that reality in real time. So the country's value to NATO is not just that it is anti-Russia in some abstract geopolitical sense. Its value is practical. It is the kind of practical that generals like and bureaucrats fund. You need a place to monitor the Western Black Sea properly, train and host forces near Ukraine without pretending Moldova has suddenly become a super base with good coffee and endless runway space, and support a state that can sit inside NATO's command architecture, rather than outside begging for help. Romania matters for all of it. And this is where Moscow runs into the cruelest part of the problem. Romania is not easy to peel away. This is not Georgia in 2008. This is not some gray zone playground where Russian pressure can isolate the target before the West decides whether to discover principles again. Romania is inside the alliance. It hosts NATO functions that already exist. It hosts US and allied personnel already on the ground. NATO's own missile defense page still identifies Romania's Deveselu site as a standing part of the alliance ballistic missile defense architecture. And Reuters reported this month that around 1,000 US troops remain in Romania alongside roughly 3,500 NATO personnel. That changes the psychology of the whole coast, because every threat toward Romania is no longer just a threat toward Romania. It starts brushing up against NATO hardware, NATO personnel, NATO logistics, NATO credibility, and NATO decision-making, which is exactly why Russia has to operate there in this twitchy, indirect, permanently annoyed way. Drone fragments here, signal disruption there, pressure at sea, very Kremlin. Very on brand, very we are a major power behavior from a state that keeps acting like a malicious raccoon in a naval command center. And still, the pattern points one way. Romania is becoming harder to ignore, harder to intimidate, and harder to work around. Because once the Western Black Sea starts filling up with allied exercises, protected routes, training pipelines, missile defense, offshore energy stakes, and regional naval coordination, Russia does not just face a country on the coast, it faces a system. Just this week, Reuters showed Romania hosting the multinational Sea Shield naval exercise near Constanța. Another reminder that the Black Sea's western side is being treated as an active military space, not a sleepy backwater. That kind of repetition matters. Exercises build habits. Habits build readiness. Readiness is what turns a good map position into something Russia actually has to respect. And once that system hardens, the cost of reversing it gets much higher. So the advantage is not one base, one ship, or one flashy system. It is the combination: a NATO coastline, a major port, a missile defense node, a military hub close to Ukraine, a state sitting at the Danube mouth, and a country that keeps turning geography into alliance utility. That is why Russia cannot undo Romania's Black Sea position. You can threaten it, you can jam signals around it, you can drop drone debris near it and hope people get nervous, but you cannot move it, and you cannot stop NATO from using what is already there. For Moscow, that is the real humiliation. Romania does not need to win some dramatic naval showdown with brass music and a History Channel voice. It just needs to stay exactly where it is and keep becoming more useful. That is a very Eastern European kind of nightmare for Russia, honestly. No grand speech, no theatrical chest beating, just a country quietly making the map worse year after year while some poor Kremlin planner stares at it like his printer has betrayed him. And the trajectory matters as much as the current position. Romania in 2022 was valuable. Romania in 2026 is more valuable. Romania in 2030, with offshore gas online, more trained pilots, deeper NATO integration, and a hardened Western Black Sea corridor, will be more valuable still. Russia is not just dealing with what Romania is, it is dealing with what Romania is becoming. And unlike a weapons system, you cannot sanction a geography. And in modern warfare, that may be the nastiest trick of all. Romania does not have to conquer the Black Sea. It just has to make sure Russia never gets comfortable there again.